All right, so this is episode one, part two. Just wanted to do a little quick technology check to make sure that everything had posted on that part one. So just to round out this first little section here, a few more bullet points. Um, you know, any Delta medallions who have flown, you've seen the upgrade list. Um, it's not getting any shorter. So Delta also had, and the other airlines have already done it. Now, a little carve out with American, um, I'd actually have to get an opinion. I do have, I think, one or two American airlines elite members that I'd have to get an opinion on that. But the Delta upgrade list, that thing, if you were to print it out, you'd be wasting paper for days. They had to do something. You cannot just continue. I mean, even like if you go to the boarding area and you look up at the screen, the screen was already cutting it off anyway. If you were not in the top five, it the upgrade list didn't even show you up there. But the app, you just kept scrolling and scrolling. That's not sustainable, right? So you had to cull this list, and so I guess one thing that Delta is trying is they've hired Tom Brady of all people. Now, that was an interesting move. Okay. I guess he's, got some bills to pay now that he's not, throwing footballs anymore. So we'll see what Tom Brady, maybe he's going to convince folks to swipe, for tens of thousands of dollars on their app. I don't know. Or, what have you. So we'll see what Tom Brady is going to bring to Delta as their strategic advisor. I want to also point out that I didn't mention this in part one. In this capitalistic, am I saying that right, country that we live in, remember that corporations in America are here to make profits, regardless of any other opinions. It comes down to money in America. And I've heard the CEOs or other people give opinions to the airline CEOs. Why give your best product away for free? Think about that for a second. If you are providing and giving and selling a product for, sometimes some of these seats are going for thousands of dollars. Why are you turning around and giving that away for free? Think about that for a second. And these are CEOs who are, there to sustain the business, but their number one priority is to make a profit. And how do they turn around to their board of directors and their shareholders and justify giving away their best product for free? If you ran a company, I'll turn this around on you. Are you going to give away your best product for free? You don't have to answer that. I'm just saying this is what, that they are faced with. Now, I'll surely take the other side of that. They created this monster, yes. But this is the culling and, of what honestly had to be done. Another sentiment or comment, is Delta a premium airline? And it goes back to part one. If you are listening through this all the way through, I'll ask you again, what do you prioritize? Is it the service? Is it the Wi-Fi? Is it the bigger seat? Is it the leg room? Is it the drinks on board that are free or that you're paying for? The entertainment? All of these things, and whether they are consistent or not. Two things that actually happened to some friends this week. They thought they were going to have fast Wi-Fi on the plane, and they ended up on a plane that did not have that technology yet. And they were surprised at that. I have heard that sentiment also on a flight a couple of months ago. So is that Delta selling something, putting, marketing out that no one is reading that fine print at the bottom that says, yes, you can get this free Wi-Fi except for these planes because that technology's not there yet. And sorry, you just happen to take the bait. and you ended up on a plane that didn't have it yet. There was also another friend who was on another, we assume, a plane that had been purchased from another airline, and it had not been fully matched up to the same onboard experience. There were no screens in the seat backs in coach. For example, there were no plugs on the plane to charge your devices like most of the rest of the fleet. And then, were you aware of that plane? Or number two, did you go down and actually check, further down, that all these amenities and the icons were there on that plane? Or did you just made the assumption that, oh, it's Delta, I've been there before, and they should have it, but they didn't? So somewhere, again, in the middle, you have to, again, come up with this. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that these are the types of comments and sentiment. And most all the time, it's going to be a negative, posting on social media. And then right below it, people are just dogging and saying, well, I can't believe I spent these hundreds of dollars on this ticket. And yes, get mad about it if you want to. But honestly, I guess send your feedback into the airline. You may get some compensation for it. I don't know, but don't get mad about it. You can't change anything. It comes back up to what I was just talking about a moment ago. Somewhere in your expectation list, you got on that plane because you want to get from A to B, and you scheduled a time, a start and end time. There was also that expectation. And if you got there, it's just that you were unhappy, when you sat on the seat en route. So, again, and I'm taking feedback. Send it over, make comments on this video, robert@peachnews.co. Because going forward, I do want to take your feedback. I want to make this an interactive experience. That's why I'm streaming this live first on Facebook. And, I want to make this an interactive experience. There may be something I'm missing. Maybe I'm just completely out in left field. So, again, there you have it. So that was my first point in these new segments. So the next one is also on this segment of Delta, the Sky Club. So, and going back to this Amex and Delta creating that three-headed monster, somewhere along the way with the Platinum Amex card, the Reserve card, Delta decided to throw in access to the Delta Sky Club. Now, before COVID, I didn't remember there being much of an issue. And I don't know why COVID, of all things, just drew everybody out of the woodwork and drew everybody to the Sky Club. I don't know. I mean, I even had a friend recently that flew from Atlanta to London. They went, I think they were Heathrow, and they said, they didn't use these words, but they said, boy, Heathrow's kind of a shit show. And my comment was, people do not give the Atlanta airport credit. Yes, it's a huge airport. Yes, it's the busiest airport in the world. Yes, the plane train breaks down sometimes. But it works. It is one of the best run airports in the world. All the runways are parallel to each other. They don't intersect. And it usually works. I mean, the issues that it has is if we have weather, and then there's drama. But we rarely have snow in the winter and ice like the northern airports do. And it's just, people do not give our airport credit. We actually have some nice, terminals and, but again, I digress. But again, something about COVID just brought all these people out to the Sky Club. I don't know, maybe they just suddenly discovered that these airport lounges exist. And it created a huge run, and all of a sudden, at the end of the day, at certain peak times, you can only fit so many people in a Sky Club. People don't want to sit or stand up and drink and eat. They want to have a seat somewhere. And so it started creating lines. And then, Delta looked back and said, we got a problem here. And so they've introduced a whole host of things. You can actually, in Atlanta, there is a Sky Club on every terminal. You can go in and actually see, just because you're leaving out of B does not mean you have to sit in the Sky Club in B. Go to A. There are 2 clubs on A. See which one is less busy. You can go into the app. It tells you. Sit in that one. And then right before your flight, just jump over to B and get on your flight and go. Not everybody has to go to the B Concourse Sky Club. Go over to C. Find something new. I challenge you. Go out to the E Concourse one day. Guess what you'll see on the E Concourse? Martin Luther King's Nobel Prize, his gold medal, is on the E Concourse in Atlanta. Where else are you going to see that? You don't have to pay a fee. Well, honestly, you did pay a fee to go through the airport. You can't see that anywhere else, and I guarantee you didn't know that. But get out of your little box, go through security, get some exercise, go out to E, and enjoy, again, what this airport... Does London Heathrow have Martin Luther King's Nobel Prize on display? No. I'm sure they have something else over there, but yeah, these are the types of things. Enjoy, in, how do I say this? You are about to get on a plane that's going to take you somewhere at, 400 or 500 miles per hour. Is that right? Yeah, 400 or 500 miles per hour. It is a luxury, even though you may be in a small seat. Remember that the airplane was created, about 100 years ago, and all the progress is there. Just sit back. And again, in part 1, I also mentioned all the other employees that are behind the scenes. The air traffic controllers, the dispatchers, the people that, put fuel in your plane, the pilots, the flight attendants that got up at 3 a.m., or the flight attendant that, has, this is the 3rd flight of the day that they're working. There's so many people that work to make that possible. The person that drove your shuttle from the parking lot to get you to the airport. There's so many people working behind the scenes. And again, you'd be surprised how much those people make to make that happen. So I, danced around the issue, but it comes back around to the Sky Club. So, apologies there. So, the Sky Club, they are, yet again, this is probably attempt number 7 or 8. They are now going to not include unlimited visits on the Amex credit cards. They're going to cap the number of visits. So, depending upon the Reserve card, the Amex Platinum, you're only going to get X number of visits included. And I read through it yesterday. It was quite lengthy and detailed. I'm not sure that you're actually going to be able to pay for extra visits. So what does that mean? You may be cut off at the end, or that maybe the that $500-600 annual fee on the credit card, if you are a frequent visitor to the Sky Club, maybe you're better served to actually buy the Sky Club membership that includes unlimited visits. Again, you don't have to answer that. Just remember there are other options. Just because you have an Amex card in your wallet does not necessarily mean you have to use that for just Sky Club access. Now, also, I want to carve out, because I think it was the first time that I saw language in the terms and conditions for getting into the Sky Club. It now says Delta reserves the right to limit non-revenue access to the Sky Club. And I think that may be about the first time that I have seen on a Delta website pointing out non-revenue travel. It was buried in the terms and conditions, but if you go back, one of the other things is that as a airline employee, you get, and welcome, I have a viewer somewhere, welcome. If you're an airline employee, you have flight benefits. It's called non-revenue travel. So after all of the paying passengers with tickets have gotten on board, any seats that are left over go to employees with, and dependents, parents, whoever, to get those remaining seats. Well, one of the things that Delta did to cut down on the lines and all the crowding of the Sky Clubs is they said employees that had access through some other way, they can no longer access that. And that, you know, you may not have heard about it, but within employee circles at Delta, that was a huge riff. And in some cases, people asked for refunds because it was done, very last minute. But I'm going to go back to, I've worked in several different industries over the years. And I will say, earlier this year, I worked on the other side of the fence for a number of months. It surprises me at times of the sentiment of some employees, and it's union, non-union, it really didn't matter either way, that, just because I work at the airline, I'm kind of entitled to something. That's a very interesting way to go about something, in my opinion. Especially, I have actually spoken to, as a customer of an airline, I had a employee call me on a service incident, and I picked up the phone and, we talked about the issue and so forth. And she actually, I think genuinely, she told me, she goes, you pay my family's bills. And it was very interesting to hear a comment come from an airline employee. Because to me, the service issue was very trivial, but it was a inconsistency. And I'll tell you, the first job I ever had at 16 years old was at a Red Lobster. Red Lobster is one of the largest chain seafood restaurants in the U.S. The number one issue they have is consistency. And, when I see an inconsistent experience, I'm not going to raise my hand and act like a Karen and, have a moment on the plane, but there's a way to get that feedback to the right person. She called me. We talked about it. I even said, I didn't think it was a big deal. She said, no, this is a big deal. And there was some compensation involved. And again, I thought it was thoughtful that she said, you honestly pay my family's bills. And, I think she had been, for all that. So anyhow, take that for what it is. But again, this is going to be attempt number 7 or 8 for the Sky Club lines to get better. So the other news item I wanted to cover, this comes from Reuters yesterday. And we're recording this on Friday, September 22nd. The travel boom is not enough to drive profits at the U.S. budget airlines. Think Frontier and Spirit. They are actually suffering. So even though Spirit and Frontier are selling sometimes these seats $19, $20, $40 with all those other add-on fees, apparently, allegedly, they are still struggling as well. What do I have to say about this? Aviation is not cheap. The airports, the planes, the maintenance, the gasoline, none of that is getting any cheaper. And I challenge you, before you jump on social media, before you have a first world problem moment, just step away from the keyboard for a moment and think about the bigger picture. Are you able to go and hire a pilot and a private plane to do the same thing that you're about to do to get on that plane to fly to your next destination? I have another friend. He is actually, he fixes airplanes for a living. He doesn't even get to fly private. They actually put him on a Delta plane to go and fix a private plane. It all boils down to cost. And, these planes cost millions and millions of dollars Do you have that sitting in your bank to go and buy a plane? Can you fly that plane? Do you have the years of experience and hours in that cockpit to fly that plane? So, all right. So the next segment, I'm going to title this Where I've Been and Where I'm Going. So rewinding a little bit, we did a summer cruise. Now, about the biggest reason that we did it was because the friends were doing is we had a blast. 20 friends of ours, on a celebrity cruise. We went down to Fort Lauderdale and hopped on the boat, cruise ship, down to the ABC Islands, Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao. Now, most of those islands are Dutch, if you go through the history, and it was a really good cruise. And honestly, there were some service issues on board, just like the airlines, just like everything else. We survived. We were on vacation. Relax, folks. You're gonna be just fine. To get on a plane, to get on a cruise ship, and just immediately turn the smile into a frown and just start finding anything you can to gripe about. If that's the way you want a vacation, be my guest. But I'm there to have fun. I'm there to get away from home. I'm not there to just find any little nitpicky thing that I can bitch about for the week. It was fun, but I will say that same group of friends that they are doing a Greek cruise next summer, and it's also going to be equally hot. And I'm a big guy, and I sweat a lot on that cruise. So I don't think we're going to do that Greek cruise next summer. It's one of the big reasons there. And it also happens to be around the same time that Georgia Tech and Florida State are going to play a football game in Ireland next August. And that cruise is the same week. And I have not made it to Ireland yet. And it'd be quite a neat experience to see American football in Ireland. So I think that's what we're going to do. And it should be a little cooler in Ireland versus Greece in August of next year. So we'll see. The other little trip I made recently was to Raleigh, North Carolina. So I do bowl one night a week, and that bowling league is part of IGBO and USBC, and that does qualify, to just attend or, go out to these tournaments. It's a load of fun, and Raleigh's a cute little town. I actually do have family there. I did not get to see them, but I had not had a chance to actually see the city much. And we stayed downtown near NC State. A lot of college folks around. We got a nice little Airbnb. Stayed with two guys that I bowled with on the team there. It's a cute little town. We partied, ate, but unfortunately got COVID for the third time around. But it wasn't too bad. I still have a little post-nasal drip, but the COVID wasn't too bad. I just wanted to make sure I didn't spread it around anybody else. But Raleigh did give me COVID as far as I can tell. Speaking of that travel note, Monday, September 25th, the White House is going to start getting out the free test kits. So if you might remember, you can go to a website and order those. They are bringing that back next week because there is another surge. Thankfully, this strain is not as bad as the others, but there was another friend recently, she got COVID for the first time, and it kind of hit her. She's a little older than me, and it did hit her pretty bad. So it's still a thing, but I got my flu shot this week. With Kaiser, they are not ready for the COVID shots, but they're getting all that in order. So just make sure you're up to date on your vaccines. And just another comment about vaccines. I don't know what's in the vaccine. I'm an IT nerd. I don't need to know what's in it, but I do know the first time that I had COVID, I'm glad that I had the vaccine. I cannot imagine having COVID that first time around without the vaccine. I may not even be here right now. So I'm just going to put that out there. All right, so where are we going next? So in a couple of weeks, I headed up to Ellijay. It's going to be the perfect time of year. This is my favorite time of year. We've been through this hot, hot summer, the air conditioning running every day. fan running in the room, not right now because it's nice and cool this morning, but I love these Georgia fall temperatures. Oh, perfect. We're going up to Ellijay, which is just right here in North Georgia, not too far of a drive. We're going to do a cabin with some friends. We're going to take some firewood out there. It's got a fire pit. We're going to, cook, play cards, sit around and drink the whole weekend. They're really fun. Unfortunately, the dog cannot come with us, so a friend of ours is going to keep Mr. Briggs for us, and we'll have a little weekend away in Ellijay, Georgia. And, feel free if you're interested in any of these trips or have any questions, again, feedback, robert@peachnews.co. And, you can comment on the video too here. And then looking forward to Christmas. So a window of time around December 23rd, we are looking at a cruise. There's several different options we're bouncing back and forth. Cruises for holidays are generally pricier, so we have not actually committed to which cruise we're going to take, but we're looking at several. If we don't do that, potentially an all-inclusive. I would like to get back to Puerto Vallarta and see more of that city, and I have 2 or 3 friends actually that live there. I'm not sure, I think one of them part-time, but I do want to get back there. So that's where I've been, where I'm going. All right, the next little segment, I'm going to call this the upgrade fund. So I'm trying not to do so. Why am I doing this? I had, as many of you know, and I'm going to publish this on my political podcast thread. But the political stuff, I'm still working with some guys monthly on the Dixie Dems, and we're going to be recording that next week. But maybe I'll still do some of the political stuff, but it has not met some of the expectations that going into that I thought. So on this cruise recently, I kind of rekindled. I do have ways to still book travel as a travel agent. And so, in this segment, I'm going to just call it the upgrade fund. In addition to the feedback that you send me, if there is a trip that I have talked about or something that you're interested, I'll be glad to help you out and book that. Answer questions or what have you. That's another thing. I had also reached out to a couple of other travel agents, part of the travel agency that we work with, so that we have kind of an interactive way to talk about these trips. And if you're open to it, we can, as these episodes continue to go on, from week to week, we can kind of see, hey, we're planning a trip as the Ireland trip that I talked about earlier to, next August. I'm sure that's going to come up pretty much in every episode. So we can kind of plan together and see what makes the most sense. And, being able to monetize, this as another avenue here. I'm not looking to quit my full-time job. That's not my goal. But at the other side, I would like to have another, side gig on this. So that's all I'll say about the upgrade fund. And but I do encourage feedback. Again, commenting here, subscribing, if you will. And I'll put the email address, robert@peachnews.co. You can also hear Peach News 3 times a week on Radio Tucker. Those are Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays. Work with Jason over there. And also at peachnews.co. All right, so that is our first episode of my upgrade offer. See if we keep that name or not. And thanks for your attention. I'll try to do another episode another week or two. Have a great weekend.